Bien, pues, vale, un poco de silencio. Dentro del marco de estas clases magistrales que os damos, trayendo a diversos ponentes, hemos traído gente del sector del videojuego que ha trabajado directamente en videojuegos, gente que tenía gran conocimiento de la historia, y en este caso traemos también parte viva de la industria del videojuego, que bueno, prácticamente está desde siempre. ¿Vale? Le he dicho, ¿cómo quieres que te presente? Y me ha dicho, como un clásico. ¿Vale? Así que, bueno, presento un clásico de la industria en España, Carlos Torrents, y os dejo con su presentación, con su clase. La va a hacer en inglés.
¿Qué dices?
Sí, obviamente, no debería ser ningún problema esta altura de curso. ¿Vale? Pero es que su vida es más cortita. Vale, sin más, cuando quieras.
Vale, bueno, pues sí, como decía bien Rafa, la clase o la sesión va a estar estructurada en dos partes claramente diferenciadas en cuanto a idioma, ¿vale? La primera será en castellano, ¿vale? Porque para intentarme un poco acomodar a ese O que ha venido ahora.
Demasiado bueno.
Y la segunda, eso sí, la haremos en inglés, ¿vale? Así nos estamos todos satisfechos, ¿vale? Y aquí damos por finalizada la parte en castellano. So, my name is Fred Lorenz. I've been around in the video games industry since 1999. So probably by the time some of you were just born, something like that. How old are you? 18. So yeah. The year you were born, I actually 98. So you failed one. You lost one of your years so bad, twice more. But that's another story. So, to cut a long story short, I've been in the industry for many years. Right? I could tell you lots of things about what I do, but I will be focusing on my experience in the mobile games industry, right? Not in the history, because that's something you already know, but in the prehistory of the industry, right? And how, in the prehistory, the publishers for mobile games were born, right? Publishers of video games, you all know who they are, you all know, or you should be knowing by now, how they work, but how they came about in this industry, this is something we'll be having a look at today, right? If I speak too fast, then let me know, okay? If I speak too complicated, let me know. Right, so let's move forward. Who I am? Rafa said, I'm a classic. Well, this is a little bit of my history in the industry, right? This is my history in mobile games. Well, way before Microsoft, I was working for a French company called Zonger, and we were the first company to have dedicated servers in Spain for Counter-Strike, Quake, for a real tournament, and so on and so forth. So you can imagine how old I am, right? So, the industry at that time for PC gaming, multiplayer PC gaming, was booming. We were working with companies like MSN and Telefonica and so on and so forth. But the internet bubble about the year 2000 more or less, just worse. So I basically found myself out of a job, and I decided with some friends to create a company which eventually became Microjobs.com. The first Spanish, or the leading Spanish company at the time doing games for mobile phones. With Microjobs, we not only developed our games, but we developed games for companies like Jamdat. Jamdat eventually, this company you probably have never heard of, eventually became EA Mobile through a series of mergers and acquisitions. So, a Spanish company based out in Barcelona, working with EA, but it's pretty decent, right? Also, we were not only developing our own games, but we were also distributing them. And we started with three lame, if you want, IPs, right? all of a sudden there's this guy who owns the rights for Yeti Sports, and in youngkids.com, everyone's playing, becoming very, very popular. We speak with the guy, we managed to sign a deal with them, distribution rights for all the Yeti Sports games for Spain. Nice and very, very sweet. Underworld, the movie, we managed to sign the deal with the film distribution company, the actual producers, and lots of crappy Spanish movies like Una de Zombies with Santiago Segura, who when we showed him the game in the Sitges Film Festival, he went, well, that's pretty bad. So guess how the game ends? So once you finish the game, you get a pop-up picture of Santiago Segura saying, well, it's not a great game, is it? Right? So, for a few years there, sold my shares, ran up. It was pretty decent, pretty decent deal. I went to, and that's something, I went to work as a CEO of Gaelco Mobiles, right? You know what Gaelco is, or who Gaelco was? Gaelco stands for Gabinete Electrónico Comercial, right? An arcade manufacturer. We're doing arcades. Do you know a game called World Rally? Anyone? Radical Bikers? The first game developed in Spain for PS1. That was an arcade, the port of the arcade version, right? So with Gaelco, I mean, as you know, the arcade business is not a great business anymore. At that time it was. And venturing to new businesses, we created Gaelco Mobiles together with, that's another piece of story here, with Figurat Software. You know who Figurat Software is? From Madrid? Alright, this is pretty straight.
Yeah.
Alright. Do you know who Figurat Software is?
Yeah, of course.
Sir Fred? Eh? Okay.
You only can 3 hours.
In the year, no? 3 hours
More
in the
or
year.
less.
Okay, well.
They are saturated right now, so imagine if
Okay.
I explain everything.
Alright, so that's the first company, Spanish company, in the city to get titles developed and published for Spectrum, so it were actually being sold in the UK. Right? So together with this with the people at Figurat, we created Gaelco Mobiles to design and develop mobile games, right? And with these mobile games, we not only made our own with Dakar, Pau Gasol, Fernando Alonso, Business Petrosa, I believe, yeah. Also, we had the rights for, I'm sure you know this, PC football, rings a bell? So we not only developed PC football, but we perpetrated the mobile version of it, right? Perpetrated, it's said in purpose. It's a very, very bad game because we actually managed to get the rights from the Spanish National Football League, right? So, remember, an arcade company doing mobile games in a time when the arcade is going down and mobile is going up. And we were not the only guys facing this kind of situation. Who are the best arcade manufacturers in the world? Well, but they're not. I mean, but it's really. You got Namco, right? Got Namco, got Taito. All the Japanese companies in general have good global VR in the States. The big arcade manufacturers were going to go in the same process. But with the difference that these guys had massive IPs, right? IPs standing for intellectual properties that they were porting onto mobile and for which they didn't have distribution channels. Who were the distributors of the arcade machines of Namco in Spain? It was Gaelco. So they came to us and said, hey guys, we're doing something with mobile. We've got these crappy games in Java. Can you help us out? And of course we did. And we were distributing big IPs from Namco. And strange enough, we're distributing as well the big IPs from Taito, right? Namco, just give me 2 titles from Namco. Come on. Anyone?
Any from the Tales of Saga?
Come on, the classic Namco games. I mean, if I say Namco, you don't go like strange games. You go to Tekken, right?
Yeah.
You go to Pac-Man, anyone? Galaga, right? So all this kind of games, all of a sudden, were running on mobile phones, and they needed distributors for it. Okay, another question. Taito. Come on, guys. Just a couple of games. Really?
Escuchas porque creo que esto va a entrar en un examen.
I mean, if they were my students, they would fail right now, all of them.
I know.
Come on. Have you ever heard of a game called Arcanaut? Alright. Game called Puzzle Bubble?
Yes.
Bubble Bubble?
Yes.
Space Invaders?
Yes.
Alright, so I won't be putting you through this questionnaire for THQ, right? So basically, we managed to get the big titles for this Japanese manufacturers distributed in Spain, Portugal, some territories in Europe, and also Latin America. So it was a pretty decent business. And then, taking advantage of the relations we had with the big ones, we used those good relations to leverage smaller developers or smaller arcade manufacturers. Mitchell Corporation, Pang, right? You will say, no, Pang is from Capcom. No, Pang is not from Capcom. Mitchell Corporation. That, Toki, the monkey, jumping up and down, Cabal, shooter, blah. So these are the kind of games we developed or published / distributed in many of the mobile network operators at the time. The company was doing great, so it attracted the attention of PlayerX Mobile Media, which happened to be the main distributor of mobile games in the UK. So what they did, they came to our office, knocked on the door, they gave us a beautiful term sheet stating how much money they were going to pay for the 100% ownership of the company. The shareholders sold it, and we had a beautiful ending. And actually made me travel to London once a week for about 2 years. Not only had to go and visit my clients, my customers around Europe once a week, but then actually going to London to the headquarters also once a week, which meant that I would be traveling at least twice a week. So which, of course, you can imagine made my family extremely happy. Because they didn't see much, right? After a couple of years there, Spanish company Z comes. Z is a Spanish company based out in Madrid, founded by two brothers who have a very illegible name, Pérez Dolcet, right? No? Okay. Peter Studios, right? Commanders, one of the brothers, Ignacio, right? No, it's Javier. Well, so they bought us, and well, happy ending again. And after that, well, I've been bumping my life in other non-gaming companies till a couple of years ago when I went back to the industry and well, managed the Game VCN, the Video Games Incubator. This has more recent titles, so you might actually have heard of them. Like Linz works with Aragami from the publisher, used to be called Shadows, the Terror with Crazy Pixel Striker, blah blah. So to cut this very, very, very long story short, I've been around for many, many years, and then you can call me a classic, and I won't be mad at you, right? And that's the other one. So the thing is, if you want to be a developer, and I've been around for many years, as you've said, but I've never coded a single line of code in my life, and I won't get into coding at my age. So something I've learned is that if you want to code and code only, you're actually bound to having one of these papers in your hands, standing in front of a big development house, games or any other kind of development, and saying, you will code for food. Because the industry, the image of the industry you have at this day, at this stage of your life is that of coder, an artist, a producer. Well, producer not always. Like producer is something like happens when you grow up. But the idea of the industry you have is very, very idealistic. You've got the idea of you developing a game, putting it onto Steam, and then, or App Store, Google Play, whatever platform you may be developing for, and waiting for the money to pour down. Well, guys, this is not going to happen. I'm sure they told you before. I'm just reiterating this. Video games industry is not only about coders. If you want to have a clear or more of a complete image of what the video game industry is all about, this is what it actually looks like. Right? There might be developers for social gaming, developers for mobile games, developers for casual games, developers for hardcore games. There's some guys who are in the video game industry who don't necessarily code games, but they do tools, they do middleware, they do analytics. Yeah, video games. And I'm sorry to say that because I come from the time in which video games were really alchemy. You had a bunch of guys in the garage working out the perfect formula to make a good video game. It's gone in many, many aspects. Now we are in an industry. We're not alchemists anymore. We are working in a chemical industry, in a pharmaceutical industry. We work for a gigantic number of clients. In gaming, advertising, you may want to make some money, and if you want to make some money with your game, putting some advertising might be an interesting business model for you. If you want users to pay for your game and convert those users into customers, you may well make them pay. So there are people in the gaming industry only worrying about certain aspects which have to do with how money is transferred from A to B. Then marketing, user acquisition. Yeah, your game might be the best thing in the world, but you have it locked down in your studio, no one will notice. If no one notices it, is not noticing your game, no one will be playing, no one will be becoming a user, and no one, of course, will be becoming a customer, right? And then console developers. That's where most of you actually wanted to end up, right? Developing big AAA game, or developing your own indie game, AAA game nowadays for consoles. But the industry is far much richer than the development side you are actually caring about, right? You may be despising some of the guys here. Oh, these guys don't do real games. Oh, King, they don't do games. Oh, they do make a lot of games, and some of them are beautiful, right? So just forget about your misconceptions about the video game industry being just development. The video game industry is far much richer. And it's not only richer in console, it's also richer in mobile, it's also richer in PC. And it might be more and more elaborate when time goes on, right? And as a developer, you tend to think, this is the value chain you're working with, right? It's like, I do my games, I get them on to a distributor, if I do physical distribution, of course, and then I get it. If I'm doing only digital, I might actually be skipping this stage and say, all right, my sales channel is Steam, G2A, whatever. We'll get to the end user, and with the end user, I'll be making some money, right? In some cases, you may actually say, all right, we'll be working with the publisher, and we'll go back to the publisher role a little bit further in the session. But this is, in a nutshell, what you should be caring about. And you normally tend to focus on this bit only. A publisher is someone who you hope will be paying your bills and who will be taking care of all the other parts you don't actually care about, right? And this is how it looks like in general, and now it looked like that in the prehistoric times of video games. It does look like this in the current, let's say, AdWars time, right? Where you've got the good guys of the Android revolution fighting the empire of the iOS developers. Then you have, you may have the Jar Jar Binks of the Ubuntu mobile guys, right? And yeah, you of course you have the Han Solos of the Microsoft Windows, right? Who works beautifully well if it works at all, right? So that's the story, and this is how it's looking. That value chain applies these days, and this is something that actually didn't begin yesterday. And I'll be telling you about the video games, mobile video games prehistory. If this session was to be a Star Wars session, would be going to Rogue One, right? Because we're going way before the plans of the Death Star were stolen, right? We're going before the birth or the awakening of the publisher, right? So, if we are to speak about the prehistory of mobile games, of downloadable mobile games, we should say, we need to speak about J2Me. You know what J2Me stands for? Java to me, right? Java, or Java, Java, two, there's no trick, two, micro edition. It's edition Java for micro devices, for small devices, right? So it's Java platform for micro edition, for small devices, which was developed, of course, by Sun, Oracle these days, and it was developed for a myriad of devices, right? From mobile phones, of course, to set-top boxes for digital TV, to printers, multimedia devices, blah, blah. So they basically wanted somehow a language which would allow developers to code in for those devices to perform other tasks than those they were originally designed for, right? And Java, as you know, it's not a very powerful development platform, has lots of restrictions, and guess what? Those devices Java to me was designed for also were extremely limited. So we are facing a situation, a very beautiful situation here. We've got, and pardon my French, a crappy gaming platform, like Java to me, running on crappy devices. So you can imagine how beautiful and how great the games developed at that time were, right? And for you to actually get a grasp of what actually meant coding in Java, let me please introduce you to the Siemens SL45i. The first mobile device capable of running a Java virtual machine. Monochrome. It had 2 megabytes of RAM, blah, blah, but that was private RAM. Probably pretty decent device. But people were not, the sellers, Siemens themselves, were not very confident as this mobile phone becoming a very powerful gaming tool. So they actually marketed as the first mobile phone with an MP3 player. Right? So you have devices in the market capable of running video games. Not even the owner of the brand cares about it. They don't even advertise it. So that's kind of the promising story behind crappy devices, crappy technology, and no one actually caring about the gaming capabilities of the phone, right? Not only that, if you go, many of the developers of Android developers complain about how fragmented it is, right? Yeah, we've got 8 versions of the OS, oh, mine is working with KitKat and yours is working with Lollipop, whatever. Oh, I need to work on optimizing the code, right? Well, in this case, you would have, when we're dealing with Java, you would not only have to deal with issues regarding fragmentation, which has to do with the manufacturer, different implementations of the OS, all right? Different job profiling, the Java versions embedded in those devices varied enormously. So having one piece of code working in one device, even from the same manufacturer, did not actually guarantee that the same piece of code would work in the other. Processors, well, you already saw how beautiful the devices were. You can imagine how beautiful the processors were. Memory, it varied enormously. The screen, and that's a funny thing. You will need to do games in at least two versions. A monochrome one, then a color one. Because there were still black and white screens around. And then you would be facing very interesting situations in which you would need to do 3 or 4 versions of the game because of the different screen resolutions. The smallest resolution, and now you'll be laughing, the smallest resolution, screen resolution we had to work with, and there, believe me, there were games running on devices with a screen as big as 96 by 65 pixels. That was the screen, right? Typical screen size, average performing, 128 by 128. That was the screen size of what was called Nokia Series 40, which was the mainstream and most widely spread type of device. Another, I would say, the high-end screen size resolution was 176 by 208. And then we were all extremely happy when we got the QVGA screens. Right, so these were the screen sizes we had to work with, right? And when it comes to memory, let me tell you something. For a while, there were out in the market some specification, Java specification of something called iMode. iMode was the Japanese specifications for Java 2 actually, a proprietary thing of NTT Docomo, the mobile network operator in Japan, which had a very particular and peculiar system for games to run on it, right? Downloading a game was something you would need to do in 2 parts. The first bit you would be downloading was the actual code of the game, which was limited to 30 KB, 30 kilobytes. And then you could actually download additional resources for 100 or 100. Right? So you can imagine doing a game with 130 kilobytes, right? Out of which only 30 are code. So that is one of the things we had to do, right? And we were doing this with devices like this, right? Black and white, Nokia's 3410. This was the Nokia N95, which when it came to market, it was said, it is the best phone ever. We will never need anything better than this. It does virtually everything you'll ever need for a mobile phone, right? I'll go back to this big blue thing in the middle. Sony Ericsson, BlackBerry, and this is Motorola the 720, right? Which had an external camera. Okay. Alright, this big thing in the middle, it's called the TSM 100, right? It's not a Terminator thing. TSM stands for Telefónica Servicios Móviles, right? Basically, that was the device you would be given for free by Telefónica, right? it was such a bad device that no one actually managed to have games running on them. And then, has anyone read Asterix in the Line? Right. So like the guys in Asterix, everyone? No. There was one tribe, right? One development team who managed, only one in Spain, who managed to get games running on this. And that was my company. With Microjogs, we were the only company in the world, right, capable of making video games for this device. So you would have companies like EA Mobile, you would have companies like Gameloft, with big IPs, Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six, who couldn't get the games here. Who would come to knock on our door and say, hey guys, I will be paying you 10,000 euros, 20,000 euros to make us a port of a Rainbow Six on this device. And we would go like, fuck you. We're not going to create a competitors. Why? I mean, this device people are getting for free, loaded with 100 euros of free credit. The first thing you would do when you got a phone was try things out. Wow, there's a game. Oh, and there's tons of games. Guess what? All the games were ours. So it was a very, very sweet year, right? So one of the things you need to take into account, that's why I put it just in the middle, is that sometimes the smaller platforms, or the smallest platforms out there, are those you should be at least carefully looking at. You should always be considering any kind of platform out there, but sometimes those small ones, the smallest ones, are the ones where you can have the highest chances of getting at least a few downloads, right? Let me give you a clearer example. It's not games related, but it's apps related, and sometimes they kind of sort of overlap, right? Back in 2010 or 11, around those 2 years, there was a guy who doing this App Store optimization thing, that is actually taking into account how your games are positioned in the App Store, which are the keywords that make your game pop up or not, and in the listing or not, or the keywords that don't. Who made this study and said that in the App Store alone, there were, remember, 2010, 2011, there were how many flashlight applications do you think there were in the App Store? Huh? Just random guess. No. Yeah, of course not, because it's a proprietary thing. I'm saying, you need to look for other additional or optional or other platforms to have your application running with or your games to run with, because some of the main markets are totally overcrowded. So, in the App Store, back in 2010, 2011, there were, according to this guy, 1,899 flashlight applications. That is, applications that the only thing they did was turning the LED of your mobile phone on. Right? Around this time, around this year, there was the guys from Mozilla, right, who developed another OS, one of the Jar Jar Binks I could have mentioned before, was called Firefox OS, right? The first newsletter they sent out to all the Firefox developers was, guys, we need flashlight applications. All developers were doing flashlight applications for iOS, even though there were thousands of them. No one, not a single developer had thought that this very need of having a flashlight application for Firefox made sense. So, that piece of advice you can take or you can throw away, whatever you want. Think out of the box. Try to think about alternative platforms. Because sometimes the opportunities might be here. I mean, Gameloft didn't care about this device when it came out. like, oh, it's a crappy Telefonica device, no one is. I mean, we won't be putting any efforts at all importing our games to this kind of devices. What happened? Telefonica gives them away for free. You've got hundreds of thousands out there. All of a sudden, it becomes a market. And all of a sudden, it's a big market with people loaded with free credits who can only buy games from one source. And thanks to beautiful developers at that time, we were the only ones out there. So, thanks. All right, so yeah, that's the. And just for you to know, with Vodafone in Spain, right? They had more than 15,000 different user agents, right? Out of this device only, they had more than 3,000 different versions of the firmware out. Okay, and actually meant that if you had a Nokia N95 V12 blah blah blah, your game would work, but if you had the same game running on a V3, the game would crash. So you can imagine what a big nightmare it was to have the games actually ported and tested. There were testing houses there. The only thing they did was having gigantic numbers of devices and having people to test. That's the only thing they did. And they would be charging you an awful lot of money for these kind of testers. Because if you didn't cover at least 95% of the devices available in Vodafone, the game was not going to go live. No matter how big the IP was. If the game is not covering 95% of all the devices out there, the carrier is not allowing the game to go live. And these were the distributors, like big, massive things, but very, very slow in reacting. No? Okay. Who were the first distributors? The MNOs, the mobile network operators, right? The Telefonicas of the world, the Vodafone Live of the world, the Oranges, Amenas at the time, TNN, American Mobile, Telcel, blah, all this kind of companies. And they were running on a B2B2C model. You know what a B2B2C model is? You know what what a B2B model is? What a B2C model is? All right, so that B stands for business, to business, to business, to business, to consumer. Right? It's I, as a company, am selling my games to a mobile network operator, so the mobile network operator can sell it to the customer. I am not working directly with you. You want my game? You need to go through your mobile network operator, to the Telefonica, Vodafone, whatever carrier you have, and then get it downloaded from there. You are not my customer. You are always the customer of the mobile network operator. And since it's a small market, because how many mobile network operators are there in Spain? 4. Right? It's a situation of oligopoly. Right? We are facing an oligopolistic market in which you only have a very small number, very reduced number of players who can indeed sit down and make you pay more money for your games. I was yesterday at a business meeting, and I found a friend who at the time worked in THQ. And we were remembering a dinner we had many years ago in Los Angeles at one of the E3s. And in that meeting, that dinner, we were the guy from Electronic Arts, the guy from THQ, the guy from Digital Chocolate, the guy from Gaelco, the guy from Namco, the guy from Game of, did I say Jam? Yeah. You might say Ram. It's an industry dinner. Yes, it was. But I forgot to mention 3 other people who were at that meeting, at that dinner. We had Pablo, who was the guy buying the games for Telefonica on the global level. We had Oscar from Vodafone, and we had Stefano from Orange. In any other industry, they would be getting huge fines. Because this is something you can't do. You can have all the players on the demand side and also on the supply side to sit together and agree. We could have agreed there that games which were priced at that time €3, we're going to price them at 6. And if we all agree, why not? The industry agrees that €6 is the best price for a video game. They put it in place. Why? Because they had all been sitting together, right? And the thing is, it was in this kind of event when the publisher, the first proto-publisher, pseudo-publisher, if you want, appeared. They were not even called publishers, they were called agregadores, content aggregators. And why these people appeared? Because it was a problem of resources. You've got a big company like Telefonica, a big company like Vodafone, that all of a sudden they are making, for us, a decent amount of money. For them, you put it in the general perspective, not so much money, by selling video games, right? And they have one person. And then all of a sudden they think, all right, this one person could be doing something better. And this person is getting 20 calls a day from game developers. We can have the same amount of sales if we reduce the number of calls we get from the developers. So Telefonica and this big company decided all of a sudden that they didn't want any more clients. We don't want to distribute more games for more than a given number of suppliers. And then they artificially created the need for a distributor, for a publisher. They were only going to work directly with the 5 guys who were making more money, who were giving them more downloads for the games, and the others, they will need to find a way to the market, through one of these companies. So those who were developing all of a sudden had to deal with content that was not theirs. They needed to learn new skills in the marketing because they were forced by the situation to get a new business line, that of the streets, right? The games were made available through the web portals or the internet portals of mobile network operators, and then you would be paying with your mobile bill, which is one of the best things in the world. Because you only click one link, and then all of a sudden you're being charged 3, 5, 6 euros. And you don't even know about it, right? If you have a prepaid SIM card, it applies the same. And the beautiful thing, that was the fact that it was a captive audience, right? You had a captive customer. You, on a general basis, you only have one phone number that is assigned to one of the mobile network operators. So what happened is that you could price one game at €4 in Telefonica. The same game, you could be pricing it at €3 in Vodafone or 5 in Orange. And the users would never complain. Because the user from Orange didn't have access to the application's marketplace or the game's marketplace in Vodafone. They couldn't simply access it. So you were a Telefonica user. There was only one shop you could get the games from. You were a user from Vodafone. There was only one shop called Vodafone Live. And no matter how badly you wanted the game, if that game was not in your shop, you could not get it. Full stop. And then is when the exclusive deals began, right? What's happening nowadays with consoles, right? You would get, Telefonica might get the exclusive rights for The Lord of the Rings, whereas Vodafone would get the exclusive rights for Star Wars. In the hope that people would be changing from one mobile network operator to another, which was, of course, a very idealistic thing because it never happened, right? And the big business out there was the pre-install. When you got your phone, it was preloaded with the game or with the beta version. If you like it, click on it, you would pay it, and then stop playing, right? And this is how it looked, how poor it was, right? The shopping experience, right? You'd go like, wow, I want to download Fernando Alonso, and that's what you had, right? These were the App Store indications, the App Store content, if you want, if you will, that we had, or the users had to make the choices. That was information they got, right? A homepage, some details on the game, high quality screenshots as you can imagine, some rating, and you can barely see it. But that tells you how things have changed. Freemium, free-to-play, ad-funded, blah, right? The only thing that actually mattered was the €3, the €4 price tag you would put on the game, right? And that's how it looked. And the user would only need to click this and get the €3 or €4 invoice directly to his account, right? And then there were also other distributors who were working also in the B2B. You see, they came a little bit at a later stage, which were using what is called advanced messaging platforms. That's a premium SMS. You send an SMS and then you are overcharged by the price of it. And then you pay free. If you are to pay €3 per game, you send free SMSs at €1.20, right? Those premium advanced messaging platforms, in Spanish are called PAMs, and the general nickname they had were Pameros. No? The Pameros were Mobilisto, Buongiorno, and Zed, amongst others. And then they created this subscription-based premium SMS model, which you would see something on advertising television. You would send a message normally called Alta, with the name Alta, to a given number, and before you knew, you were subscribed to a service in which they could charge you up to €18 a month. It was extremely difficult to actually sign up from that, right? So that actually gave the industry a very bad name. And not only that, that's something I want to show you. All right? I want to show you how the advertising went. Hope it's working.
Si lo pasaste en grande con el mejor juego de aventuras, prepárate para disfrutar de la secuela más esperada, Pan Returns. Envía Pan 2 al 7244 y diviértete con los exploradores más famosos. Recuerda, Pan 2 al 7244 y continúa la aventura.
So that's one of the things they did, right? For us, it was paid advertising, right? We were getting peanuts from these downloads. But what happened is the user might actually would say it on television, watch the ad on television, then decide he wanted to buy that game, and knowing that this guy was most likely going to charge him €18 a month, they would go back to the mobile network operator and download it from them. So we basically did not use the TV to make sales. Of course, we sold a lot in volume, not in cash. But we used television to actually advertise our games in the hope and in the fact that the games in the high payout market would work better, would perform better, and this is actually what did. And then, one of the bad things when you're dealing with companies that are not very clear in the business models, that can be trying to treat you not only as a user but also sometimes as a supplier, is what happened with these guys. And then let me show you the ad and then I'll tell you the story. Right?
Gracias a los avances tecnológicos en la industria del videojuego, los usuarios ya pueden disfrutar en su móvil de los juegos más vendidos para PC y consolas. Y todo ello con las ventajas que ofrece poder acceder a los mejores juegos en cualquier momento y en cualquier lugar. Juegos como Pac-Man, el auténtico comecocos, donde fantasmas y laberintos te harán vibrar de emoción. Para disfrutarlo envía Pac-Man al 7244. O el Superventas Puzzle Bobble. Ayuda a los dragones Bubbybop a explotar todas las bolas de colores. Comienza el juego enviando bola al 7244. Y por último, el increíble Super Sonics, el superhéroe de color azul, vuelve con nuevas aventuras. Disfrútalas como nunca enviando Super al 7244. Compruébalo por ti mismo. Los mejores videojuegos en tu móvil para disfrutarlos donde y cuando tú quieras.
And this last one was not actually Sega. It was me getting extremely mad at the guys from Cuatro, getting on the phone and shouting at them extremely badly, because I had managed to give them the rights for the authentic, the original Pac-Man, the rights for the original, authentic Puzzle Bubble, and these guys put together an ad in which there was a clone of Sonic. So I got extremely mad at them to the point I canceled the distribution agreement I had with them, because they had just been extremely mean to me. You are advertising the original content next to a clone, right? One of those things we did, and that's something that can actually show you how big and powerful the power of a brand can be. We were in negotiation with more network operators like these Telefonicas and so on, and with titles like Pac-Man and Puzzle Bubble, and say, "All right, guys, we've got the rights to Pac-Man." The guys would go like, "Wow, we won the game, won the game." It's like, yeah, you won the game. We want you to have the game, but in order for you to have the game, the first thing you have to do is to remove all the clones for Pac-Man from your deck. If there's a single clone of one of my original classic games, you don't get it. So basically, actually meant that we were actually getting lots of games out of the market because of the fact that we had the original brands. And as I just told you, we canceled distribution contracts with people because of the misuse of the IPs, right? And this is what happened before. This is what's happening now. And let me ask you now, right? What do you guys think? Because this is the part in which I want to have to be more interactive and interact with you and let you know a little bit of what share with you my experience when dealing with the publisher. What do you guys think a publisher does? Thank you.
Yeah, the intermediation between you and maybe the actor or the play team.
All right. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Can you try to be more specific? Like when I tell my children, right? It's like, oh, there's a thing that does one thing. No. Okay. Get a little more professional here.
Maybe they're company who treats developers.
Company, yeah. That.
They take the product, they
Yeah.
make marketing of it, and they sell it.
Well, that's perfect. So, it's a company that does sales on behalf of a developer, and sales meaning I get the game from you, I put it in a marketplace, and the game can be accessed and purchased by the player, by a player in the world. That's the model on digital. If we're going to discuss that in physical, it's a guy who gets the rights to do physical copies of the game and then distribute this game in a given territory, right? So these are the things a publisher does, but they do a little bit more than that, right? Ideally, that's what you all want. And I hope that's going to change. Is you want a publisher to finance your game, right? You want to have a beautiful idea saying, I want to do this game, put it in front of a publisher, and then the publisher will go like, whoa, what a great idea, how much money do you want? Right? So you get no financial risk whatsoever. That's the idea, right? That's what most of you would be looking for. They do, it happens, but getting the game fully funded when you are beginning, well, in general, getting the game fully funded by a publisher is like a cookie, right? Big accessible, hard accessible, right? They do marketing. They do marketing because that's the kind of thing you don't care about, you're not interested about, and it actually needs to be done. They help in creating and building the brands, right? GTA, right? Sometimes you say, all right, a brand is Sony, Sonic, a brand can be Star Wars, a brand can be Jurassic Park, whichever. It's something that's out there, and I do the game version of it, and then there you go, an IP. Yeah, that's one case. Also, it's creating and building that IP. GTA, it's an IP that's actually a game, full stop. Call of Duty, it's an IP that is a game, full stop. Doom, it's an IP, that's a game, and yeah, also a very crappy movie. Yeah, but that's the thing, right? So they help. How do they help? By making sure games are good and the games are properly marketed. Because what's very cool about the brands is that they are popular, right? You may get a brand, recognizable brand, because lots of people know that it's popular, right? And then help you with distribution, both when it's physical and of course when it's digital. And they are, to me, the backbone of the video game industry, right? Developers are the foundation, right? And here we've got the gamer, player. How do you get there? Without some link between the gamer, the player, and the developer, the industry does not exist. So that's the link. To me, that's the backbone of the industry. It actually puts together the content creators and the content users, right? Do you want, as a wise man, or try to be a wise man, what have I learned from them? Right? Some tips. You need to have a game design document, right? The GDD, as they call it. It needs to be a fully detailed one, but be ready to have something more lighter. And I'm speaking about probably what is called a one-pager, right? That's a very startup-ish word. It's actually put in one page, the concept, the platform, price points, deliverables, blah, blah, blah. So I can take it home and say, all right, that's a game I might like to finance. Or it's a game I would not finance, right? So a GDD, of course, a full version is required, but it will go, it's something you don't want to hand out on the first meeting. Because if I tell you, I've got a beautiful game concept about this sorcerer getting into a black forest and being chased by aliens, and then people will say, all right, that's the concept. You go like, I'm not going to read that. I'll give you one pager, I'm just giving you the front page, you like it, and then you will actually want to get this. But you need to have full GDD, not only for development purposes, but also for commercial purposes, for business development purposes. Because in that GDD, you are explaining the story, you're actually telling the potential buyer, the potential financing entity, what your game is all about, right? Paper is good, right? But something moving is actually better. And moving, I'm not saying something that's emotional, but again, in movement, right? Especially if it's your first time. If you don't have any background, you don't have resume, you can actually show. You don't have an experience, right? I can tell you I'll be doing great animations, yeah, I can put it that. I could put you in a PowerPoint, I'll be doing an amazing game. You might actually believe it. But as I said before, I don't code. If I, on the other hand, show you something that's actually moving, then I'm showing what is my capacity to deliver what I told you I want to be doing in my GDD. So the more advanced the game is, the more you will have of the game actually working, and the easier it should be to convince a potential buyer. Right? The same way you are acting as a customer when you go to game or you go to Steam and you want to buy a game, you go and see the screenshot, you watch a video, you read the reviews, blah blah. the reviews you won't have. But videos are, in many cases, the triggering factor of that purchase. You've seen the videos, you've seen the screenshots, then you did it. And then you might, when you say with a customer, with a publisher, one of the questions you generally ask is it in-game or is it rolling game, right? Because we've all seen games which has a very promising rolling demo, right? A very beautiful video, like, wow, I'm gonna buy it, and then you're extremely disappointed when you start playing it. Because if they have not the video and the actual game don't have anything. So, present something and it's actually the game, and if it's not the game, tell it. And the closer you are to your potential release date, the more important it is to have something that's actually moving. Right? On the legal side of things, you need to be covered, of course. What kind of territories you are aiming to have a distribution deal signed for. If you're using some kind of a license, the Liga de Fútbol Profesional, for instance, do you actually have the rights? Oh, I'll be using the Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo on the cover. It's like, do you have the rights for it? Because if it's not, it's just the problem these guys might be incurring in. So just clear away of the problem, all the legal issues that could be standing there. The budget, right? You have a GDD. You may have, or you should have, a production plan. That's something you in the presentation as well. And then you have what has been the actual cost, right? Up to the point you do the presentation, you know how much money it costs to present, to develop the thing you are presenting, and then you know how much money you need remaining costs to finish the game. Then you go and say, all right, I need 100,000 euros. Right, okay, you may need 100,000 euros. That's no problem. I've got shitloads of money. Right? But what I need to do is, how are you going to invest it? Where are you going to invest it? When are you going to need the money? Because I need to balance my financial risk. Right? If I give you 100,000 euros now for a game you'll be releasing in 3 years from now, you've got 100,000 euros, and I don't have those 100,000. I'm giving you 100,000 euros in the hope that in 3 years from now, you'll have a game which will be good enough for me to recoup those 100,000 euros plus whatever rev share we agree on. You know what? I'd rather give you 30,000 euros in 2 years and a half from now, because the game will be closer to the release date, and to give you 100,000 euros. That's my financial risk. My financial risk is how much money you need to advance and how far away from the moment I give you money is the time the game will be published, the game will be released. The time you spend, the more time you have my money in your pocket, the more of a risk I have. So try to balance what are your financial needs, you have to determine the budget, and what is the financial risk of the publisher. The closer you are to release date, the happier he will be before giving you the money. Right? You need to, of course, have a clear production plan with deliverables, and those deliverables, guess what, will be triggering the moments the publisher will be paying. Right? You work with milestones to publish, right? And that's a piece of advice. The first milestone, assuming we're working for a 100,000 euro contract, right? The first milestone should always be the signature of the contract. We sign the contract, you give me a percentage, 20%. Milestone 2 will be when we've got all content. All right? All content. All content. And they'll give you 25%. I'll give you another one when the game is fully tested. I'll give you 30%. And then when the game is launched, the game is being accepted by the distribution platform, by PlayStation, whoever, I give you the remaining. Right? So you need to balance your production plan and the deliverables with your financial needs. So this is something you need to play with. Right? Signature. You need to put it. Why? Because before the time of getting your signature moment, you've had lots and lots of work done. You probably have the game in a beta version or in a late alpha version by the time you sign. So you put an awful lot of money of your own into the game development. So getting a small percentage is actually would be more than welcome, right? The presentation timing is actually linked with financials as well. As I said, the lower the financial risk is for the publisher, who's the one giving you the money, the better for him. So you need to time it accordingly, right? Is it worth to present the game when we are in a very early prototype timing? Depends on your background. If it's your 10th game, I'd say yeah. If all of the other 9 have sold massively, yeah, of course. They know you will deliver. If it's your first game, wait until they can have a good impression of the game. It's better to have a good impression of the game at a later stage than a very bad impression at a very early stage, because that door actually is closed. Right? Then you have something decent to show, right? Then identify your ideal publishers. That's crystal clear, and that's really so obvious that most of the people actually fail. If you are doing a game for mobile phones, right? And it's a hardcore game, don't go to Rovio, because they don't do it for casual stuff. If you're doing a graphic adventures, right? Don't go and try to speak with Atlus. Why don't you go and speak with Data League, right? Things like know who the customer is. The same way you know, or you should be trying to know who your customer will be. If the customer is a player, is the gamer. If you're going to do a B2B, you need to know who is distributing games which are suitable. I mean, everyone here wants to work with Devolver, right? How many of you would you like Devolver to publish one of your games? I don't believe there's only 3. For the rest, well, it should be more than that, right? Devolver is a great company, but they have a very small team. And if they've signed a few games in the last month, that's something you can know because you need to go to events and you need to speak with developers and so on. You will then know that it's probably, sometimes it's not a good time. Despite the fact, no matter how badly you want Devolver to publish the game, no matter how badly you may want Devolver to publish the game, it might not be the right time. Because they don't have bandwidth, they don't have team. They will not be paying attention to you because they already signed all the deals they can for the games they plan to release this year. Right? Attend trade shows. No question, right? Which are the main, just give me 3 big gaming events, professional gaming events, not Spanish, but are not being held here in Spain. GDC. All right, another one. Oh, that's good. Oh, and facts. Okay. What else? Dog cooking show. What else? Oh, okay, for Title Connect. Slush. Gaming is open South by Southwest. Paris Games Week. Montpellier Game, round the corner. The event in Busan, I don't remember the name of the event in Busan, Korea, China Joy, blah blah. There's lots of those events out there, right? GDC, yeah, is the event, right? That's the 3-star. And if you're going to go to GDC, just try to go to something that's not as flashy as GDC, but it's called Game Connection. Game Connection, which is held last year, was at the baseball stadium, and this is where you have smaller developers looking for publishers. You go to the GDC and you have the Expo Pass. Yeah, you'll be seeing the big booth from Unity, the big booth from Microsoft, the one from Sony, but that's really about it. Unless you have the contacts, the only thing you will be seeing is video games the way you do at D3. What's interesting about these big events in the main shows, in the big booths, is what happens behind the scenes. What happens in the D3, not in the basement or the first floor or the ground floor of the Nintendo stand, or what happens upstairs when you've got the meeting rooms, right? And in order to gain access to those meeting rooms, you have to contract first, because you need to have had an appointment. You need to have had close an appointment months before that, weeks before that. So you need to attend the trade shows and prepare for them, and in some cases, before you go play the major league, you need to play regional ones. And that's when you go to Game Connections, E3. It's a good place to showcase games. Yeah, if you're a big one, if you have to look for a publishing deal, don't even register. All the action happens in the hotel next door, right? That's the what was that? Gamescom. Well, Gamescom is good, but it's in August, so it's kind of complicated. Backseats, Tokyo Game Show. It's a complicated thing because Japanese gamers tend to be particular. Mobile Games Forum, that's the event. If you do mobile games, Casual Connect, it's throughout Europe and also in Asia. It's pretty interesting. Slush next week in Finland, South by Southwest in the month of April, I think it is. Paris Games Week in October. So these are the events that you should be looking at. And then, funny enough, you may be getting money to go. If you check, you may be getting up to 50% of your travel expenses covered by public institutions, for instance. Right? And of course, you need to have a plan B, plan C, and so on. The way a publisher works, is for you, the ideal is to work with a minimum warranty that is an upfront payment against future royalties, right? And the more you want the publisher to give you beforehand, the more money you ask upfront, the lower the rev share will be, right? So, if you want 100,000 euros, you may be getting, 30% rev share, 40% rev share, whatever the figure is. But if you go and get 60,000, you may get a 50-50 deal. And if you only need 30,000, you may get a 37. So there's a trade-off. But that's why it's so important to align your financial needs with the moment you present the game. And not only that, once you know your financial needs, adjust the deliverables accordingly, right? The minimum warranty, well, I would lie to you if it is money up front for nothing, even though some cases it happens, it has happened. It's money they give you up front against future royalties, right? So, you go 50-50. They give you 100,000. What this actually means, right? It means that the moment the game has made more than 100,000 euros, depending on how you write it, or how you read it in the contract, depending on how you write the contract, the moment the game is made. That's me telling me I'm really late. That was my alarm to say this. Hopefully this, oh, the news is we only have one slide to go, so I know it. Right. So 100,000 euros, that means the first 100,000 euros go directly into the pocket of the publisher, and then from the euro 100,000, and one, this one is goes 50, whichever goes above this minimum warranty goes 50, right? And then what you should be getting from a marketing perspective is budget, stating how much money you will be investing in your game, what kind of actions you will be doing, and in case of mobile devices, you can actually even ask for a number of installs. As a publisher, I want you to give me 1 million installs. That's something you can ask, right? What happens is that the typical contract they lay on your hand, or they lay in front of your eyes, it is as sweet as 50-50, no minimum warranty, and no marketing commitment. Or if they put marketing, sometimes the wording is so tricky that it's specified as a percentage, let's say 10% of the game's revenue. And if you're given the rights to this publisher for a 5-year contract, right? 5-year contract of your game for all platforms, for a 50-50 deal, no minimum warranty, no marketing commitment. Yes, marketing commitment, yeah. It's 10% of the overall revenue of the game. What would you do? Would you take a deal like this? I mean, I'm not the developer. I'm the developer. I'm putting this deal in front of you for your game. Will you take it or not?
No, I would not.
Eh?
I would not take it.
You will not take it. You're a very wise guy. Why?
It's just 10% of the revenue.
Sorry?
Because it's just a 10%.
For the marketing percent.
Yeah.
You'd be getting 50% of the revenue. But these guys would only be spending 10% of the revenue in marketing purposes. You take it?
No.
The key thing here is it's like a one night stand, right? If things work out, we'll be happy. There's no strings attached, so there's no commitment, right? I'm not showing my commitment to you, not giving you a ring, I'm just giving you potentially a good night together. And I will only be spending 10% of the general revenue in marketing. So if I manage to sell, let's assume the publisher does an awful job, right? And the end user price of your game is $9.99. If the publisher actually, and that's out of this 99, which is the end user price, you get a net. Normally it's 70-30%, 70 to 30. So you would be getting roughly $7 US, right? Discounting the platform commission. So out of this $7, right? Out of which you're making 3.5, and the guy is making 3.5. If this guy is actually capable of justifying a marketing expenditure of 10% of total revenue, the total revenue is actually this, which is money, the invoicing amount is less the platform commission. So if this guy can prove that he's invested $0.7 in marketing, he's doing what he was told, he's doing what you guys agreed. Even though he's only sold one copy. And you can't do anything for 5 years. You just sold your game, your idea, your dream. You're a complete bastard. You just ruin your life. You put probably 50,000 euros in development, in travels, blah blah blah. Total budget of this game was 50,000, and this guy, by selling one copy, is doing what he was supposed to. And then you need to ask him in good faith to release you from the contract. As long as he can prove this, you guys are in a pretty bad shape. Then of course you need to find who's the best publisher, especially in physical distribution for the key territories. And above all, it's something with a publisher you need to have a good feeling. They're people, right? You will see him or her, right, in their own eyes, whether they are reliable or non-reliable person. And of course, you need to do a lot of research as to how the games they have been performing. And then I hope you have some questions. You know we have